Hey, welcome to the Elle Russ Show. My name is Elle Russ, and I am a #1 best-selling author and master coach. My intention is to inspire, educate, and motivate you with weekly content featuring amazing guests and solo episodes. Visit my website, elleruss.com, to learn more about me, my courses, free masterclasses, partner discounts, and much more. Enjoy the show. All right, so I'm going to tell you a story from my personal life that I hope inspires you to open your mind to unknown possibilities. I love using intention. I am an intentional person. And of course, listen, we all have stuff that gets in the way of life that then steers us off course. And I've been there. But so let me tell you the story. If you subscribe to my newsletter, I send out an inspiring email once a week. Sometimes there's some personal stories in there. Sometimes it's just thoughts on a quote from someone I admire. But this one is a really, really juicy one. All right. So I'm 5 feet 2 inches tall, like on a good day. All right. So I knew from a young age that, like I was never going to be a fashion model. I mean, not like that I didn't desire to be one, not that I thought I was ever pretty enough to be one or anything like that. But it was just one of those things that it was sort of clear, especially when I was growing up. I was born in 1973. It was clear by the time I was a tween or whatever that, the fashion industry was only tall, exceptionally beautiful women that were models, right? It was like Cindy Crawford, Christy Brinkley, right? And so in my head, it was just like, well, yeah, I mean, it's sort of an automatic impossibility, right? So, but like millions of girls growing up, and maybe even, if you're a woman and you're listening and thinking, where's she going with this? You might have had at some point, like I would see pretty women on the covers of magazines, frolicking in tropical paradises. I had childhood daydreams about that glamorous life and, slathering myself with copper tone lotion. Maybe your mind wandered there as well, male or female, right? Just this idea of being like a model and just sort of traveling to these beautiful exotic locations and just, sitting there in the sunshine looking good, right? Like, it seems amazing. So, of course, as a little girl, I saw that and, had little daydreams about that, but it's not like it was ever a serious desire. I never entered into a pageant or any of that kind of stuff. So, aside from the height requirements, okay, again, I'm 5 feet 2 inches tall. I think the height requirements of the modeling industry, it's like a minimum of 5 feet 9 inches tall. Either way, there's sort of this height requirement, and then there is an unspoken age limit. Like, for example, I'm not saying there aren't older models. Of course, there are mature models. But usually, for example, a woman who never modeled a day in her life does not usually become a professional model in her 40s. Highly unlikely, right? Maybe laughable until I was laughing all the way to the bank with a fat check from a modeling gig that I got at the age of 44. That's right, you heard me, 44. So here's the thing. Before this situation occurred, I was not actively intending to materialize a modeling job, okay? I was not sitting there thinking about that childhood, like momentary, occasional dream of being a model on a, beach somewhere. I was not actively at the age of 44. This was like not in my mind. But here is what was occurring in my mind before this did come about. I wasn't actively intending a modeling job. However, I was actively intending new furniture. Hear me out. Okay, so I was in my place, I was looking around, and I had this thought where I said, you know what? I really want to, like, I've had the thought a couple of times. That's it. I want to change it all up. The couch, the table, like the whole, yeah, I want to change it all up. But then right as I had that thought, I immediately had another thought. And that other thought was, I don't want to pay for it though. Like, I don't want to pay for it. And like, and then it was like, I don't want to pay for it. Like, I want money to come in and pay for it. That was my thought. Like, I don't want to pay for this, but I just want some unknown money to come in and pay for it. There was just something about me that was like, I don't want to dip into what I have. It'd just be more fun if something just came in to pay for it. I mean, clearly, even if something came in, it's my money and then my money is paying for it, but you get my drift, right? That was the thought. And here's the thing. Based on my years of using intention, I believed that that could happen. I actually fully believed because it had happened before that a large chunk of money from an unknown place had come into my life. So I was like, And then I just kind of threw it away. I really didn't think much more about it other than I really wanted a new place, new furniture. And I kind of felt, spent a few minutes in that vibe of just feeling that feeling and being stoked about money coming in from somewhere to pay for this furniture. All right. So then here's what happened. A week later, I got a message on Instagram from a lifestyle photographer who I met in a social situation 15 years prior and who I had not communicated with since. Okay, I want to repeat that to make sure you heard it. I got a message from this photographer who I met in a social situation literally 15 years prior, hadn't heard of him since, didn't have his phone number in my phone, nothing, had not communicated or heard about the guy since 15 years prior to that moment. He had stumbled upon my social media profile. I guess, you know how on social media, like you can have all these connections on LinkedIn. So, you can see who might be connected to other people. And I guess he saw my name, remembered, or saw my photo. I guess a friend of a friend of a friend was connected to my thing. Anyway, he saw my social media profile and he contacted me to see if I was available to model be a model in Cabo San Lucas, Mexico for a week. And the gig was to promote an exclusive private beach resort with a five-star chef, a spa, like every activity known to man. What do I mean by exclusive private beach resort? I mean that LeBron James owns a $5 million, 2,500 square foot condo there, and you can't Airbnb a place there. You can't go rent a place there. You can't book on Expedia there. You own a place at this private beach resort. So there's literally no other way I would have known about this place or just been able to go here. And they wanted to do a photo shoot. And this guy, again, he's a lifestyle photographer. So they were looking, I guess, for real people. I modeled the shit out of this thing. Let me tell you something. This experience was so incredible on so many levels. It would take me another 5 hours to talk about all of the gems, but I'm going to share a few of them because some of them were really fun. All right. There was this really strange part of the trip. I want to give you a quick backstory on this. One of my best friends of 20 years has been a huge fan of the actor Paul Newman forever, since he was a kid. He is such a fan of Paul Newman that after Paul Newman died, my friend named his brand new Labrador puppy Paul Newman. And I mean, call the dog by the full name, not like, hey, Paul or PN, Paul Newman. Bad Paul Newman, good Paul Newman. Want to go for a walk, Paul Newman? Literally named his dog Paul Newman. Then it gets even better. A few years later, that same friend named his son Luke after Paul Newman's character in the famous film Cool Hand Luke. Okay, so to this day, I have never met anyone who is a bigger fan of Paul Newman than my friend. Okay, now the story that I'm speaking to is a part of a newsletter I send out. Um, and in it, there's photos. So unfortunately, I'm just telling you the story. You can't see the photos, but I show all the photographic evidence of all this stuff in the newsletter. And you can sign up still for my newsletter and you'll get it. Okay. So then the following transpired. I arrive in Mexico for this photo shoot, and a tall, handsome man steps out of a taxi at the hotel, and I am staring at him in disbelief. I'm in shock because he looks exactly like Paul Newman. I mean, it's fucking crazy. I walked up to him and I'm like, oh my God, you must get told all of the time, you look exactly like Paul Newman. Okay, turns out that this guy was in Mexico to be my pretend boyfriend for this photo shoot for the whole week. And wait, get this. He's been modeling for decades and he is very well known in the industry for looking like Paul Newman. In fact, he gets tons of modeling jobs because clients are often looking for a Paul Newman type. So in the newsletter, I show a collage, a series of his modeling pics, and it's really uncanny. Like if you showed it to someone, especially of a much older age, even more so than myself, they'd be like, oh, is that a young Paul Newman, right? It's really amazing. I mean, so that was really weird because so I sent my friend tons of photos during the photo shoot. And I'm like, can you believe this? He couldn't believe it. We had a laugh. I'm like, why am I hanging out with Paul Newman? I felt like for the entire week I was hanging out with the reincarnated Paul Newman. It was so trippy. This guy is just, yeah, it looks exactly like Paul Newman. It's just crazy. All right, so here's another unexpected highlight. I had always like not consistently, but it's like one of those things I told you about, like the modeling dream, come and go, a brief. I sort of always dreamed of being a professional tennis player as a kid. Like I love tennis. I was good at it. I even taught it at one point, but it's not like I ever pursued it or really was like begging my parents to become a tennis star. It was sort of in my mind, right? Like, oh, how cool would that be? Sort of like the modeling thing. But I always thought it would be really cool to have photos of me playing tennis, like action shots. But like, I never hired a photographer or put any effort into that because, I wasn't a professional athlete or a sports model. So it seemed like sort of a waste of money and time to do that. But that dream came true in this photo shoot because part of this photo shoot was me being professionally photographed playing tennis. And there were so many great shots, and the photos continue to bring me joy. Another materialization. Now, the Paul Newman thing was weird. I'm not a huge fan of Paul Newman, so it's not like as amazing that I ended up having a pretend boyfriend for the week be look exactly like Paul Newman, but it was more funny because my best friend is such a Paul Newman fan. But this one, getting photographed playing sports professionally, such a highlight. It is so amazing. So, I mean, those shots still bring me joy. They are gifts that keep on giving. So, what's true about this whole situation is like this whole situation is an even bigger manifestation because I used to joke around all of the time with my friends that I wanted to be sponsored by Copper Tone suntan lotion so that I could be paid to hang out on beaches and sunbathe in my bikini at beautiful pools. And here I am on this photo shoot, and someone is paying me to vacation and a suntan. And it's like my joke happened, These things that we lightly are like, oh, would that be great? And then they come true. And another highlight, this is unbelievable. Upon my departure from Mexico, the wardrobe department gifted me all of the clothes and shoes they bought me for the photo shoot. So I got a free, unexpected wardrobe, got this hilarious Paul Newman random situation, which was weird. And an amazing 7 days in paradise filled with constant laughter with the other models, my fake Paul Newman boyfriend. We hung out at the beach resort all day while we waited to model. So we're at the pool, we're doing this, we're served incredible food. I'm eating sushi every night, everything's paid for. Uh, not only was everything paid for, I was paid extremely well. One of my good friends is a photo shoot producer, and she said that my daily rate was like unheard of for nobodies in the industry. So it's like, wow, sometimes dreams you thought were unrealistic or impossibly hilarious, like impossible, show up bundled together in a way and at a time you never could have predicted. And you know what? It turns out you can freaking get paid for these dreams, right? Who knew? So the reason I tell this story is that life can be more fun than the limits you have on it. Playing with the unknown, setting some intentions, playing with intention and working with it. And the next thing you know, a materialization comes in that satisfies and brings up a few really amazing things. It was just honestly one of the best experiences ever. I love the photos that I still have from it. And yes, I was able to go buy all of the furniture. So I did that intention of sitting around and going, oh, I want to change it up. But you know what? I don't want to pay for it. What came in to pay for it was so much better than actually if someone had just dropped an envelope with the money. I got a tropical vacation trip slash work, all of the experiences I mentioned, plus more, and the money. So I got all that food, all that like a new wardrobe, like a new environment, a place, again, a private beach resort. I would never be able, like at the time, I didn't even know about it. And unless you're willing to buy a place in Mexico, you just don't go there. It was just absolutely amazing. So you got this. Play with intention. Be more intentional if you're not. Get into gratitude. And if you have a thought about a dream or something and you laugh at yourself for thinking about it, think about the story and go, you know what? You never know, though. You never know. I really, if someone had told me, actually, you're going to get a paid modeling job in your 40s, I would have been like, yeah, right. I wasn't even trying to be a model. But you know what? I got to be one for a week. And it was so fun. Like, I would do it again, but it's not like I'm out there trying to hit the pavement to be a model. Unknown realities are around. It's interesting where you apply your faith. And I don't mean religious faith. I'm talking faith in one's ability to prevail, faith in one's own magical outcome attainment, however spiritual hippy-dippy you want to look at, or however practical you want to look at it. I mean, I hadn't spoken to this guy in 15 years. It's not like we dated for 5 years or were best friends in college. It was really like we met briefly in a social situation 15 years prior. Just came across. How do you know someone's not going to come across your profile? We are all often limited in our minds as to what we think could happen and the hows and the ways it could or couldn't. It's so limiting because if I told you, well, what if someone shows up at your door tomorrow and offers you this? You'd be like, oh, fuck off, Elle. You're right. I don't believe that. Yeah, well, you know what? I didn't really think someone would just call me up and be like, hey, would you like a modeling job at an exclusive private beach resort in Cabo San Lucas? And all of these experiences along with it, plus a new wardrobe and a tropical vacation. Sometimes it shows up, but it only shows up almost in equation to your level of being open to it showing up. So even if it's not specific, maybe just try to think about opening up to unknown possibilities. Just the idea like, hey, there's been stories of shit in life where people had experiences where luck came out of nowhere and they didn't go play the lottery for it, right? Someone picked them out of the crowd, nominated them for something, a good Samaritan showed up with help and a warm casserole, etc. We rarely think about those things. We think about the things we can know and control, what is tangible. This happens. We spend the same schedule usually every day. We're in and out of the same routine. So we're not thinking about unknown possibilities filtering in. But they do happen. They've happened many, many times. To me, this is one of those experiences where embracing intention and faith and action, but I didn't take any action on this other than to say yes. And, of course, get to the airport and agree to the job. But by even using your mind and your level of emotions to be open to the fact that something could show up to pay for that, right? And this example is so good because not only did something show up to pay for it, but the something that showed up had within it many, many materializations of dreams and things that I had wanted in the past. And here's the thing. Am I upset that I got my action tennis shot at 44? Because that desire for those shots was like probably many years prior, a decade or more prior, where I was like, oh, I would love some shots of me, like, you know what I mean? But it didn't happen until later. Here's the thing, it didn't matter. So some of the stuff you wish could happen right now, some of it may not matter. When it happens, it'll happen. It'll be even more awesome. I mean, I felt like I was able to enjoy that modeling job way more than I would have if I got it when I was 24 with my mindset and where I was at then. So anyway, you got this. There are so many unknown possibilities out there. Keep dreaming and take a look at the limits you might have on it and kind of maybe break it apart and open that up a bit. All right, I'll see you next week. Hey listeners, over the years, a ton of companies have approached me to collaborate, but I will only promote companies whose products I believe in and that I actually use and consume on a regular basis. So let me tell you about some of my favorite companies that I can offer you discounts for. Rep Provisions, an amazing company doing incredible things for our planet, topsoil, and animals with regenerative agriculture, and it's my #1 source for quality pasture-raised meat and chicken. Visit repprovisions.com and use code L15 for 15% off. I'm also obsessed with a company called Carnivore Crisps. They make a lean, all-natural, and delicious alternative to conventional snacking, made with just real meat and real salt. Totally addictive, and my favorite ones are the beef brisket and the ribeye. Visit carnivorecrisps.com and use code PALEO10 for 10% off. I also love and regularly use Paleo Valley products. They make amazing supplements and delicious paleo products. I use the Superfood Greens Powder, grass-fed beef sticks, the Organ Complex, and their bone broth bars. I love the lemon and apple. I also use their Essential C Complex and more. Visit paleovalley.com/promos/Elle Russ for 15% off. I also love Primal Kitchen. They make delicious paleo-approved, gluten-free, grain-free, soy-free, and no refined sugar products, and I use them daily, from their collagen powders and sauces and marinades to their avocado and olive oil. So good, so healthy. Visit primalkitchen.com and use code L10 for 10% off. I also love paleo powder and use it almost on everything I cook. They make incredible seasoning blends, and they also have these incredible grain-free coatings that feel just like crispy breadings that you would have had prior to knowing that there's another way. So visit paleopowder.com and use code L15 for 15% off.